The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. First things thanks to Toby Matika, handling the show last week when we were somehow able to discuss the draft before the draft actually took place.
Yeah.
Tough show to do.
I think we all called it pretty well. It was a pretty exciting draft, don't you
Wow,
think?
look at you. Well, I said the most likely thing to happen would happen. I'm awesome. I'm Mike Catalana.
No, I said the correct thing that
Most
did
likely.
happen.
Let's go over here. Pat Duffy, what are you wearing today?
Shaquille O'Neal, I love this jersey. It's a vintage throwback Cavaliers jersey. This is the best jersey they ever wore, and I don't know why they would ever change out of something like this.
All right, Mike Catalana co-hosting. Like Kevin Oklobzija is back. Kevin, welcome.
Great,
Then let's talk
great to be
hockey
here.
off the top.
Absolutely.
Excitement reigns in Buffalo. First round draft pick. What do we know about this Rasmus Dahlin?
He's somewhere between Erik Karlsson and Victor Hedman, which means he's really, really good. Now, if you have just Ristolainen and Dahlin or Dahlin, I don't know, well, however it's pronounced, we'll find out when he gets here and we can ask him. Until then, I'll go with Dahlin, since that's what the previous NHL players were known as. That's two really good building blocks on the back end. Jake McCabe's okay. I have no problem with him being, the second pairing, or he could be part of the first pairing if you don't have Ristolainen and Dahlin together. So that's a really good place to start your rebuild, which started how many years ago? And here we are again. But at least
Negative. Come on, we won first overall.
Exactly. So now there's some hope. And beyond that pick, you're first in the second round again, too. Those are good players that sometimes become really good parts of your lineup.
Is it franchise changing? Is this something that's going to turn everything around?
If a defenseman can be, and if you look at Ottawa and Erik Karlsson, well, yeah, it could be. This is finally something good has happened, and Jason Botterill and Phil Housley have reason for hope now, not just some blind hope.
Guys?
Go ahead. I know you're happy.
So I saw every game he played in at the World Juniors live in Buffalo during that tournament, and it's jaw-dropping what this kid can do, right? Like, you go back and you watch highlights, and that's easy to fall in love with highlights.
Now,
But
I'll say this, I don't mean to interrupt, but Alex Nylander looked really good, too.
What I'm saying is, yes, Alex Nylander...
On the same team.
He looked really good, but there were flashes of Nylander. What was great about Dahlin, whatever, is his entire game is solid. Because I spent a game just watching him, knowing Buffalo had the potential to take him, and you could not find a flaw to his game as a beer league defenseman who knows a thing or two about this stuff. Yeah, it was remarkable how good this kid is.
Yeah, well, you see Phil Housley with a little relief in a sense because, that's the guy he needs to run what he wants to run because he's going to need somebody to run it and he's going to need somebody to do something really well for him and pick this team up because I believe he starts next season on the hot seat. However hot it is, you know that it can't be the same kind of year we had this past year.
When one of your own players is talking about a losing culture.
But think about this, as far as defensemen that move puck. You have Dahlin as a part of a pairing. Gooley's probably going to be up in Buffalo next year. He's a very similar player who can move, who can shoot the puck, who can pass the puck, who plays with his heads up. You could have two defensive pairings with offensive defensemen. That's awesome. It's unbelievable.
And maybe we can settle down a little bit.
It's like winning team.
Well, on Ristolainen, because the guy has shown where he can be a very good player. Sure. Played so many minutes, lost confidence. Keep in mind, these guys are still relatively young guys, and it can happen to them. He was on the ice too much for this team.
Yeah, but now he won't have to be.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The thing I like about Risto is he's ornery. He really doesn't care who he ticks off. He is willing to cheap shot, cross check, shot to the head. It's what they need back there. They need an attitude.
It doesn't really impact Buffalo so much, I know, but the Amherst getting swept in the playoffs is kind of a downer.
There was so much improvement, and people are once again wearing Amherst hats and Amherst sweaters and whatever, but it's a bit of a step back after what they did accomplish. The problem is, from January to the end of the year, they really didn't play that well. The good thing is, a lot of people noticed.
Yeah.
They still seem to think, oh, the Amerks are having a good year.
Yeah.
Because they picked up the loser point in a lot of games, but still, it's a big change from what it was.
The loser point.
I
I
like
like
that.
that. And that Wednesday, they had a good crowd, and it's a shame because I think they would have had a really good one on Friday. But Ullmark not playing well, seeming to have a little crisis of confidence at the end of that. That opens up a lot of... Oh, you disagree with that?
Nah.
Really?
Speaking of losers point.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. We get our first crack at the draft next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. This portion is brought to you by Connors and Ferris. The draft.
Yeah.
It was probably, it seems to me, to looking at all the opinions and everything, that the pick itself of Josh Allen was the most polarizing, and the Bills draft itself, in terms of overall opinion, was all over the board.
Yeah, I think most people gave him a lot, picking a linebacker, and the kid's very talented. So when they got the second first-round pick, they got a lot of rave reviews for that. But of course, the quarterback's going to be that way, and we talked about it a lot. Allen was the guy sort of tied to them for a while. Fans had made up their mind, at least a lot of them. He's not accurate. He's all the things that he's not. I don't think the Bills paid that much attention to that and went and drafted the guy that they wanted. Now, I do think they were trying to move up earlier in the draft, maybe to give up more than they did. The Giants weren't ready to move, so they ended up dropping back. I think Baker Mayfield was the guy they were trying to trade up to get. I really do think if they were going to move up to 2, it would have been for him if they were going to do that. And then Allen, with all the other stuff going around him, ends up being their guy.
I know you don't like it.
I mean, it's not that I'm scared of it. It terrifies me because somebody made a good point. You see all these GMs. There's no such thing as a sure thing, but a guy gets the impression that these young GMs have an attitude where I'm going to take something that might not work and I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm worried that might be what Allen is. I like Tremaine Edwards, a linebacker out of Virginia Tech. I like the defensive tackle from Stanford, but then it starts to get wonky for me again, where these small school defensive backs scare the heck out of me. And maybe it's a Leotis McKelvin hangover. And then you have that wide receiver out of Clemson, even in the later rounds. And I know I'm splitting hairs here, but you got guys coming off the board when you had legitimate NFL prospects that had fallen still there. It seems like the Bills had their guys. They went with their guys. They didn't care who was still there. And I mean, playoffs last year, trust the process, I guess, but I'm a little uncomfortable about it.
I like a team that has their ideas, has formed their opinions, and this is what we're going to do.
That's called a plan. He doesn't want to hear about that.
Right. Leotis McKelvin was a plan.
the Bills didn't-
E.J. Manuel was a
For
plan.
these guys, it wasn't.
No, but I'm saying they have plans too.
And the thing is that the plan started, over a year ago. I mean, it seems as though everything that they did was to make this final move.
So far, what they've done has worked. So if I'm a fan, I would say I'm going to trust them.
And the other part about this is, look, Josh Allen's going to take work. I think all these quarterbacks, like any good quarterback coming out, they all need work. They all need coaching. So Brian Daboll is a huge person in this whole thing because he's going to be working with this new quarterback, A.J. McCarron, but he's also got to be getting Josh Allen ready. And whatever ready is, the best case scenario for the Bills is that A.J. McCarron looks good in training camp, looks like the quarterback, and then Allen comes along. Even if Allen looks good, the only reason he's not playing is A.J.'s got it. The worry you have is that A.J. McCarron just doesn't look the part and doesn't look the part early, and Josh Allen gets pushed in there before he is ready because people say, why not just put him in there because McCarron's not good enough?
I don't even think that's a possibility. I think the Bills are going to carry 3 quarterbacks. I could see Josh Allen not even being active for the majority of the games this season, and I would assume, based on things we've seen happen poorly before, that it would take McCarron playing terrible or getting injured, Nate Peterman getting injured before Allen even sees a snap this season.
That would be ideal, right?
I don't know if it's ideal. I would say this. I think they really probably want to see Josh Allen work his way up to the backup role here. And the thing you got to guard against, he's going to look fantastic at St. John Fisher. He has a cannon for an arm. You're playing in an environment where nobody hits the guy in red, just the way it is, and he's going to sling the ball around. He's going to get the oohs and ahs. And as fans, you're going to have to guard against just going, wow, look at him, because he's going to have that. The expectations for him are really low. I think they're going to probably jump quickly way too high, and then it's going to have to come back to normal.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
Preseason first game, who's your second quarterback? Peterman? Because if Allen's third, then you're going to have an even bigger problem with the oohs and ahs because he's going to
be playing against the third stringers,
yes.
and that does happen. Yeah.
Can I flip it back? Like last year, when McDermott went to Peterman and benched Tyrod, do we read anything into the way he reacted to that situation, into how he might deal with Allen next year?
I think that was a frustration with Tyrod more than, in this case, it's going to be more about the backup than it is the starter, if that makes sense. To your point, when he did that with Peterman, that was more about Tyrod than it was about Peterman. In this case, if that were to happen, it would be more about Allen than it would be about McCarron. Am I making sense
Allen
here?
being ready and deserving.
Right, and saying we're going to get Allen in the game. Honestly, I think he would have played, I won't say anybody, that's probably unfair. Anybody but Tyrod. They were very frustrated with Tyrod when they went with Peterman.
Whether there's anybody but one person in the whole world, it's pretty much the statement that you just made.
No, what I'm
media-
saying is this was more of a negative on the starter than a positive on the backup. And I think when Allen plays, it's going to be because they want to see Allen play, not because they got to get A.J. McCarron off the field.
God, the national media, I don't get it. They feel like the Browns stole Tyrod, and he is something that we don't see.
Look, let me tell you something. Baker Mayfield's going to be starting there, and he's going to be starting there quickly with that team. I said we joked at work. We have an under-over of 5 games on Tyrod starting this season. I wonder, depending on how it goes at training camp, I said under. I think it's going to be under. I think Mayfield's going to be the starter there quickly. It could be through after training camp. He could be starting the season. It's the Browns.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse, and this portion is brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Like it or not, and I don't even why I'm asking the like it or not portion of this, drinking beer out of a catfish corpse.
Oh, this is awesome. By the way, this is great. So the video of the offensive line for the Tennessee Titans drinking out of that fish at the Predators game the other night. My favorite part of that video, love shirtless offensive lineman pounding his chest, love drinking out of the catfish, but the best part is Titans QB Marcus Mariota is there, and he is visibly uncomfortable with what is happening. The linemen are going crazy, and he's sitting there like, hey guys, what's going on? But he doesn't want to be the one wet blanket of the club, so he just kind of lets it happen like this. And it's such a quarterback offensive line party relationship. Man, it was great.
Let's go, Preds.
Come on, start again. Hockey in Nashville. Mike, like it or not, it is speculation as to the reasons why or anything, but one of our guys, I mean, St. John Fisher, Rochester Red Wings, the Buffalo Bills, Russ Brandon resigning as president of the Bills.
Well,
Sabres.
Look, the circumstances are bad. We don't know, it's allegations, or at least through the report, it's allegations. So there is no diminishing what that means, especially in this day and age, the way those things are treated now. So I'm not diminishing that. I am saying is Russ has been a very impactful person with the organization. A lot of fans out there look at him as the face of the drought, and he deserves that criticism. He rose too high too quickly and took a role that he shouldn't have been in, and it hurt the franchise, I think, when he took that football role. The other part of it, if you're going to give him the negative, which he deserves, the part of it that's a positive, his marketing, his work with Ralph Wilson, the trust Ralph Wilson had in him, I believe helped in large part to keep the team here, made money that allowed Ralph to keep the team here, and I believe he helped steer the team towards the Pagulas and was influential in keeping them here and camp at St. John Fisher.
From the business side, he did everything that he was supposed to do and did it well. From the business side.
Kevin, since we're airing after the Kentucky Derby, how about
Can I
how
pick
about your
now?
Kentucky Derby pick?
Heck of a race.
Whoa! Huge fan of Good Magic throughout the Triple Crown series. And justify never making a start as a 2-year-old. That doesn't happen, so you're not. But the farther this goes, the better he will be as well.
What he said.
I disagree.
And based on what happened yesterday, you might be right.
Well, I'm just playing the odds. This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business is next.
Here is the MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed. Boom.
Go-getters, get 2 with Dunkin' Go-Tos.
Boom.
2 sandwiches for $2, $3, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Mr. Duffy.
A big deal in Boston over the weekend where they've decided to remove the name Yawkey Way as the street outside of Fenway Park there. Yawkey named for the former owner of the Boston Red Sox, who is now facing post-mortem allegations of racism. And it's not really breaking news. They were the last team in Major League Baseball to have a black player a full 10 years after Jackie Robinson. There's a bunch of other stuff, and they're going to remove the name. And that's all well and good. Except there's a problem. They've already renamed part of that street out front David Ortiz Drive. If you're going to have to remove people's names for things that happened in the past, things that you no longer agree with because society's changed, how stupid is it to replace it with another person's name who, hypothetically, could also do something to have their name eventually removed from the street? And hell, you can make the argument that Ortiz already has. I mean, the fact is this. He showed up in the Mitchell Report in 2003 as someone who's tested positive for steroids. Now, I'm not comparing steroids to what Yawkey is accused of. But as of right now, we're okay with steroids and what they do to everybody. It's fine, socially acceptable. 30 years from now, we don't know what they cause physically. We don't know how we're going to look at cheating in baseball 30 years from now. So you replaced a guy who you had to remove with another name that 3 decades from now, you may have to potentially remove. Just call it Pavement Street and move on.
Pavement Street. Or they could call it Pumpsy Green Road. Anybody? Pumpsy Green?
Over my head, sorry.
He was the first black player in Boston.
Oh.
He was the guy that
Hey, good save.
resulted
Yeah,
in the
10 years.
In Nashville right now, during the playoffs, you can get a smash plate. And guess who doesn't like it? Well, besides the Nashville people who are going, huh? People in Rochester, they're upset. You stole it. How dare you take Nick Tahoe's favorite food, signature food? Why not? Let's spread Rochester. Let's show the world what Rochester has to offer. It's not exactly, Omaha Steaks, but it's great, and it's us, and it says Rochester is great, and we're proud of it. So let them spread the word. Besides, the guy is doing it. The guy who's doing it is from Rochester. He grew up in Ontario, went to Wayne Central. He's a Rochesterian. He knows what he's doing. You go to Buffalo Wild Wings, does it say Anchor Bar anywhere?
Well, I mean, it's the ultimate compliment too, because Nashville's got so much great food and culture anyway.
Correct.
That they would reach across and borrow
KFC
this.
stole their chicken. Hot chicken is Nashville. They're not crying about that. They're not going to KFC either. They're still going to Prince's.
Okay.
Garbage plates. Wow. Okay. Hey, the New England Patriots, I'm telling you, there are cracks in this system going on here. Did you see Tom Brady? Tom Brady's on with his lackey, Jim Gray, who, loves to interview Tom every week. And he asked him about being respected by the Patriots. You know what his answer was? I'm going to take the fifth there. And Tom Brady has stayed distant from Bill Belichick and everything since the Super Bowl. Wouldn't answer questions about what he thought about the decisions being made, constantly talks about his future there and wonders about it. And then you see this story that the New England Patriots were interested in Baker Mayfield and probably trying to trade up for him. And we've heard multiple stories about quarterbacks that the Patriots were interested in to replace Brady. I think this is going on from management and it's going on from Brady. I'm telling you, the cracks are there. I know you've been waiting for 15 years for it to finally happen. I said it at the end of the Super Bowl. By the way, who won the Super Bowl? Just in case you didn't know. I said they're not going back. I said there's problems. I said it's breaking up. It's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Even Vegas thinks there's a year left in it, though.
1 year. This year.
And he's in Green Bay.
No, Belichick.
That's Belichick.
That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. Kevin, thank you very much.
Absolutely,
Always
my
a pleasure
pleasure.
to have you in, guys. Nice job as usual.
Thanks.
I like the Boston theme, though. That's pretty
Yeah, it was
cool.
pretty positive.
say, not great, Bill. Not great.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.